to Talking Cars. I'm Jennifer Stockberger.
I'm Mike Quincy.
I'm Michael Crossan.
And as you can see, we are here today from the floor of the 2025 New York International Auto Show. And it just so happens to be the 125th anniversary of the New York International Auto Show, which, as if you can calculate, started in 1900 in the old Madison Square Garden. And I was thinking of, 1900, the idea of even owning a car was probably a reach for many, many people, forget having the choices that we see out here today.
Probably only 5 years ago they invented the wheel anyway.
Something like that, I think, yeah.
And there's a lot of nostalgia here this year. There's some really old classic cars. I was looking at a 1924 Chrysler 6 over there, and it was $1,565, the first standard four-wheel brakes, and it had replaceable oil and filters. So it was probably really up for its time. But what I was thinking about is it looked like an SUV.
Yeah.
I was like, this car looks like an SUV. Sedans must have come later.
And then the Chrysler 6, when you're not a 10.
Oh, yeah,
yeah.
6. Oh, I get it. So we were talking about, in past years, there always seemed to be some at least obvious theme to the show. This year, do you see a theme? I'll start with you, Mike Cross.
There's not one overlying theme that really jumps out. We talked about a few of them.
Yeah.
There is some off-roadiness. They're kind of got some all-terrain tires on a lot of vehicles parked on rocks and things like that. But, not everybody has that. It's just sort of a select few. So, nothing that sort of overshadows everybody, I don't think.
Did you see anything that stuck out to you?
The theme is that there's no theme. The theme is like what I saw trucks that have either dark gray or black wheels.
There you go. Oh, is that...
Seriously, that was about.
I agree.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of everything out there. From, again, the nostalgic 1924 or 1900s vehicles that are out here to the newest EVs to the concept cars that aren't even a real thing yet, but not like last year. I know we talked about it being affordable cars. Years past, it was all EVs. But it's just a smattering of everything out there. So, of course, with auto shows, one of the biggest things we follow is the launches of the new stuff. So, certainly there was multiple launches from Subaru. So I'm going to start with you, Mike. Trailseeker EV and Solterra EV.
Yeah, so it was kind of neat that we haven't seen a lot of launches here in New York in the last few years. And they actually launched these two vehicles together, Solterra first and then the Trailseeker. Yep. And it makes sense because they're very similar. Platforms are kind of similar. The Trailseeker is just basically a bigger Solterra.
Yeah.
And it's worth mentioning the Solterra is updated, has some new features, bigger battery, extra range, all that kind of stuff. But the Trailseeker is about 6 inches longer, a little bit taller. Kind of actually looks like an Outback a little bit when you sort of step back. Yeah. It kind of has that vibe to it.
Which we'll get to.
We will.
Stay tuned.
And the Solterra got an increase in range, which is better. I don't know if it really puts it where it needs to be compared to everybody else, but we'll have to kind of see how all that goes.
They're below 3.
They are, yeah. So. And they're touting off-road ability. They're touting the range, they're touting speed and performance out of these cars as well. So it's an interesting mix of the things that they're talking about on these releases.
Yeah, a lot of cladding, and we'll talk about. So the other Subaru is the Outback.
Right.
The updated Outback, and it created some dissension in our ranks. Heavens, fun.
So, as producer Andrew Belize is showing you right now, the Outback has lots of plastic body cladding along the lower panels by the doors, the front, around the fog lights. You've got these really chunky roof pillars. It's like we're outdoorsy. And for those of you who always liked the Outback for its wagonness,
right?
If I can have that kind of liberty, this new one is like just full bore SUV. It's like you clung to one of the few remaining sort of wagons that are in sale. Well, if you want one, get the current model because the 2026 model is just kind of truckish.
And you didn't care for that. The dissension came because you didn't love it.
I did not. When I saw the first press photos of the Outback, it has these squared off wheel wells, which I think look completely horrible on almost any car, considering, the tire is round and the wheel well is squared off. It reminded me of the then redesigned 2003 Toyota 4Runner, and they stuck with that squared off design for a couple of years, and then they kind of quietly arched them a little bit, made them look a lot better. So my first visual impressions of this Outback is it totally wins the ugly award.
I kind of liked it. That's where, I kind of think it looks like it. I do see the connection to the 4Runner. I think it looks really
But I mean, that aside,
so,
it's got the usual Subaru goodness. It's got lots of ground clearance. It's got the Boxer engines in both regular and turbocharged form, standard all-wheel drive, lots of safety features that we've praised up and down for Subaru for having. And certainly is going to be in our future test program.
Right, and that's a 26.
Yes.
All of those three.
Correct.
Trailseeker, Solterra, and Outback are 26. I thought it was interesting, like you were saying, the legacy was the wagon. Then they Outbacked it to make it look a little more rugged.
They did.
Now the Outback has become that much more rugged appearing. Where do you go from there? What will be next?
And they've still had to do the wilderness trim to kind of even sort of over the top of it. So it's interesting how things sort of morph and change over time.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's a really good historical point to say that the Outback was kind of a variation of the legacy wagon. There was like the GT and a couple other ones back in the 90s.
Yeah.
But clearly the Outback, rose to the top, and now it's just its own car.
Yeah. And also too Forester hybrid, which is in there too in the Subaru. So it's a lot of Subaru happening today here on the floor.
Yeah, that's what we kind of called it. It's not the New York Auto Show; it was the Subaru Auto Show.
Great booth.
And good news for people who are Forester fans.
Oh yes.
Because the Forester hybrid, it not only gets a boost in power, but it gets 25% better fuel economy according to Subaru.
Yeah.
So it's like more power, better fuel economy. It's like, oh yeah, we'll sign up for that.
Yeah, no brainer.
And generally too, I think we all feel that hybrids in most cases give you just a better overall experience. Numbers aside, just usability, and it's a little quieter and things like that. They're usually pretty good.
Yeah. And I think we've seen that trend in many, many of the vehicles we tested. Hyundai Palisade.
Absolutely.
First redesign of the very popular. Not only did we like it, the public really liked it. So, Mike, what's new on the Palisade?
So there's a lot new, but they didn't go too far off of the original Palisade. And I think that's because it was such a hit. You don't want to shock people, that had one thinking about, getting this new one.
Yep.
But we have two choices of engine. There's a 3.5 liter, just full ICE gas operation, but there is a hybrid choice now as well. It makes really good power.
Yeah.
It's 2.5 liter, so it's smaller, but you have the electric component to it as well. And then they're just stuffing a ton of stuff into this vehicle.
Yeah.
Lots of safety systems, lots of just neat features, really good screen, wireless charging. So there's a built-in dash camera, which is a first for Hyundai. Yeah. It's a nice feature that some other vehicles have had. We've kind of seen that on some electric vehicles as well, but it's nice to see that kind of coming over to the ICE-powered vehicles as well. And it's larger. You're going to notice that. I mean, it's a big vehicle to begin with, but I think it sort of carries its size well. But you're going to appreciate that little bit of extra space because it is a 3-row SUV. And, with cargo and stuff and people, you could always use just a little bit of extra space.
I find there not a huge leap between the Palisade and the Santa Fe. I know it's bigger and squarer, but there's not that much differentiation.
Visually, the Palisade looks enormous.
It does.
In some ways, the Santa Fe is this kind of boxy thing, so it goes up as opposed to the Palisades that go going wide.
Maybe that's the answer. Yeah, it looked very Genesis-ified.
Yeah, it's creamy.
Yeah, it looks premium. Anyway, Kia. Jumping back to Kia, K4 hatchback. K4 is out already in a sedan form. We are testing it right now, but I like the look of the hatchback. I mean, in general, we find hatchbacks have greater versatility, greater functionality. So we will wait and see on that. Let's jump to the Ford Expedition.
Enormous, like you said, maybe that's the theme, enormous 3-row SUVs.
Yeah.
The Expedition is redesigned for 2025. It has the normal 3.5 EcoBoost turbo engines, making various horsepower. If you get like the standard model, or you get the Platinum, or the off-road Tremor. Sorry, I was going to look at my notes, but Mike saved me.
Yeah.
And I got to sit in it, and it's like a big step up.
Yeah.
Just tons of room inside. I will say I have a slight soft spot in my heart for the Expedition. We rented a 30-foot trailer many years ago, and we used our Expedition test vehicle to tow it for 3 weeks. So it has really good, strong towing credentials. It was very comfortable. It was pretty quiet,
Right.
but make, no bones about it. This is a truck. This is, so it's, the handling is probably going to be, a little clumsy. And not great on gas, but in all likelihood, we haven't even driven it yet.
Yeah.
But, like most auto manufacturers in a redesign, they're going to find a way to kind of boost fuel economy. They kind of have to, if not only just from a public relations standpoint.
Right. Great. So Expedition. I skipped over, but I'm going to come back to you. My Kia EV4.
Yeah. So
EV4.
This is super interesting. Kia, they've done some EVs, so they're not new to this, but this is a car. Yeah. It's not an SUV, and there's not really a lot of...
And affordable.
And it is, and I'll get to that in a second, but there's not a lot of sedans, true cars that are EVs. We have the Model 3, and there's the Onyx 6, and there are some more expensive choices, Mercedes and things like that. But as far as a reasonably priced electric vehicle, not so much. And this is, it's K4 size. They actually have it parked next to that K4 hatchback.
Yep.
And it definitely looks like a Kia. It has the lights and stuff going on the front bumper. It doesn't look the best, I think, in my opinion, and maybe...
Well, see, that's what's so funny, dude. That's why I started laughing.
Yeah.
It's like, because a lot of Kia style are actually kind of cool.
They do. Like the EV6
this one.
This one could be polarized.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it looks like a Kia.
Yes.
Maybe not like
right.
a really great looking Kia. I don't think you'd mistake it. But so a sedan, I kind of like that. I really like sedans. They're not maybe the most user-friendly. You can't get as much stuff in them and things like that, but I think they have their place. They usually have a pretty good driving experience, I feel like. And we're going to buy one. We're going to test it and see how it does. But I think it's interesting, and I applaud them for doing something a little different.
Yeah. It gave me vibes of like the Honda Accord Cross Tour.
Yeah. The was way
off
and the styling is kind of, it's a little off-putting, and I know the Talking Cars audience is getting a good visual of it, good eyeful of it right now.
Right.
But as you said, Mike, it's really interesting to see an EV car. It's not an SUV, and it is relatively affordable.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be real curious to see how this sells.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
And last but not least in this list, Honda Passport.
Yeah. So Honda Passport's here for 2026. It's basically all new.
Yep.
The 3.5 liter V6 is the carryover, and that's actually good. That's one thing we really liked about the past one that we had in the test program. Has a 10-speed automatic transmission, and they're doing some stuff with the trim levels. The EXL is gone. It's being replaced by an RTL, I think. I think that's the trim level we're buying. There's also the one here on the show floor is off-roady. Again, that's kind of back to maybe part of that theme, so it's on all-terrain tires. It's in a cool sort of orange color.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be pretty decent. It feels like a Honda in size.
Yeah.
Bigger than the CR-V, smaller than the Pilot. So I think for a lot of people, it might be the sort of the right fit. And just really interested to see, and hopefully they made some improvements over the last one.
Yeah.
And we've talked about 3-row versus 2-row SUV on past podcasts. And I was always in the 2-row kind of fan zone there because, like, my kids are older.
Right.
So I'm not going to put them in the third. I almost never use a third row in my life.
Yeah.
And so that's why something like a Passport is way more appealing to me.
Right.
Because I'm buying utility I'm never going to use.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely...
There's always compromise with a third row because, you can't make the vehicle huge. It can't be a limousine. So if you're using that third row every day, you're probably better off with like a minivan if you have to move people all the time. It's for that occasional, someone's in from out of town and you need to flip the seat up and put an additional person back there. But little kids, let them climb back there. But adults, it's not where you want to have to go all the time.
I think it's that sweet spot where we're out of it, but where you had little kids or friends coming along. My nephew, they have a young, I think he's 8 months old now, but they want 3-row captain's chairs for the next child. It's interesting to see what the likes are. So but for us, I agree. I love the Passport size. So I couldn't help but notice, as they're driving these cars across the stage and what's displayed behind them and what they choose to put up there for all of these journalists to see is off-road ability, road or ground clearance, the ability, they were talking about the Trailseeker, how it's tuned for off-road and snow and ground clearance. And then in the next screen they go, and it goes 4.4, 0 to 60, 4.4 seconds, 0 to 60. And you look around there, the Rock Creeks, the Tremors, the Wilderness, the Trailseekers, the Trail Sports, the Ram RHO, the Pro 4X, up, as you mentioned, propped up on the rocks. And I'm struck by, and I'm interested in our audience, how often do people really, I mean, I get that we like the look, but do you go off-road? How often are you really thinking about ground clearance? And how often are you thinking, I'm going to go 0 to 60 in 4.4 seconds? I mean, we get to do it. But these things that to me seem like things we don't do very often as normal drivers. What is it about us that makes us like what the off-road, the all-terrain tires, the running boards, the clearance looks like?
I mean, Jen's kind of being nice about this. The word that comes into my mind is it's absurd. It's in the absurdity of thinking that people are always going off, to get to my house, I've got to,
Or is it just a wish? Well, I want to be like that.
I think it's so aspirational.
Yeah.
It definitely is. And I feel it's, I'd rather have it and never use it than need it and not have it kind of a thing.
Maybe.
And maybe it just portrays an image that you sort of want to be part of, or like you'd like to go a little bit of mild off-roading. I mean, let's face it, a lot of these vehicles, they're not hardcore off-roaders.
Yeah.
You would need to get a vehicle with more than 8 inches of ground clearance, real four-wheel drive systems, low-range transfer cases and things like that. But I think there's a lot of people who live in areas where there might be gravel roads. They're into, camping, hiking, kayaking, and they're turning off of a paved road, and there might be some ruts and things. So it gives you that confidence just to get out there and use them. And I think, honestly, the 0 to 60 in like the 4-second range, it's fast.
Yeah.
But that's sort of the new norm, especially with the EVs. And they can do it, so like, why not do it?
Yeah.
You don't have to do it. It's up to the driver, right? You just have some discipline on your throttle pedal.
Arsenal if you ever want it.
Exactly.
And I do think you're right about the aspirational, that idea of slowing down and getting out in nature. Maybe that's just what they want to portray.
Right.
And it's here.
And, in defense of some of the car makers, they make some of these vehicles with the hardware to go off the
Absolutely.
road. Yeah. When you think about the more extreme Jeep Wranglers or the Ford Broncos, they really have the goods to do it, and they will. I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but I'm sure they can quote X percentage of our owners actually do go off road, and so there's a little defense there, but it's more like
it's not just an aesthetic.
Is as you're doing your day-to-day job, you're thinking, I would rather be hiking. And I would rather be in the mountains, and to get to the mountains, I need this vehicle.
Right.
Or my New Year's resolution, that's a good one.
Yes.
I'm going to get out on my mountain bike more because I need to do that too. And so that whole idea of the outdoorsiness is what
the appeal.
They're probably thinking people would rather get away from their computers, get away from their phones, get away from their screens, and go look at some trees.
And I think too, we're in New York City, which is just concrete and asphalt everywhere, but the roads aren't great. So a little bit of ground clearance is not a bad thing.
That's a fair
I drove a pretty low-slung car in here, and there was a pothole that you about got out of your seat for that I didn't see, and we made it. But,
I saw it. I was like, incoming! Boom!
So we made it. But like, if we had a little ground clearance and things like that, it might have been a little softer.
Yeah.
Right. And
the urban jungle.
Exactly.
Yes, the urban jungle. And the other thing, and Mike, again, you already touched on it, is range. It's still the desire for the range. And things like Trailseeker at 260, Solterra at 285, is that enough to be competitive?
There's an EV range.
Correct.
EV range.
And it's better for sure.
Yeah.
We had a Solterra in the test program, and one of the things that was really the issue with it was the range wasn't great.
Yeah.
And then adding cold weather and, put some people in it and things like that. Every situation just made the range worse.
Yeah.
And I think it's about 40% increase range, maybe almost 50.
Yeah.
And that's great. I don't know if it's still quite enough because everybody else has also pushed their range numbers up too.
Right.
So they're still lagging behind just a little bit. And they were touting towing capability of Trailseeker, I think, at 3,500 pounds.
Yep.
We know what that's going to do to the range as well. But again, that's probably more for things like you put the bike rack on the back with the mountain bikes on it, or a small trailer that has like some camping gear in it and things like that. 3,500 pounds, while it's a lot, it's not like big time tow stuff.
Right.
So, but range is definitely on everybody's mind. And I will just add in on the fact that in the Palisade, they're touting range as well, which we really haven't seen this on a gas-powered vehicle. Now, sure, when you're in the car and you have a full tank or half tank, it'll tell you about how many miles you have left in the tank. But they're actually saying on the hybrid version that you can get 619 miles of range to a tank of gasoline. And it's just the way they frame it, that this is the range with a full tank in this powertrain.
Yeah.
It's almost because EV range has become such a big deal that now gas cars are sort of having this kind of
about range.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, put it in the same kind of context.
I was looking, they had a screen and they had all it broken down, the powertrain for the Ram Charger truck. And they were saying the 690 that they're saying in that Ram Charger truck, it was like you used to get in a diesel. Like they were comparing this hybrided, Ram Charger truck to the old diesel truck.
And as we talk about
I thought that was a strange
the advantages of hybrids versus non-hybrids.
Yeah.
I mean, the Hyundai Santa Fe hybrid and regular Santa Fe that we tested recently, the hybrid version is so much better.
Yeah,
and that way it'll get you a lot. It just, when you talk about like the competitiveness here, one automaker says, I've got this much towing, or I've got this much EV range. It's like the automotive industry is like a contact sport. They are all super, super competitive, always trying to outdo each other. And I think that's one of the reasons that I find this industry so fascinating.
Yeah, it continues to evolve. And again, there's always that flash of fun. And we do see that, the Elantra and the ZR1. Mike was drooling over the ZR1.
There's a whole gaggle of Corvettes in the the Chevrolet area.
There are.
GTI, still up on the stage, the little GTI, the Maverick Lobo. I thought that was neat. It said closed course only edition.
Right.
So we said, we better keep that here. And great paints, these earthy tone paints. I'm like, I want that one.
And
so there was
a lot of blues too, but I would argue that blue's an earthy tone because there's a lot of water on planet Earth, but some really nice blues as well.
Really nice
and
blues. Your TRD Surf, like the Forerunner TRD Surf.
But also on the paint theme, noticing all the two-tones.
Oh yes.
Which used to be a thing, like in the 60s, 70s, whatever, and now it's
used to be a mini thing.
It's making this kind of comeback.
Yeah, and you like them, and they were well done.
Sure.
All right, as we think about what we've seen, what's coming, is there an element of that's never going to make it, or that's going to be super successful, or I just love that, it's still my favorite thing on that floor? Anything that comes to mind?
I'm going to
start with you.
The low-hanging fruit here.
Go for it. Go for it.
Forester hybrid should be a home run.
It should be.
So that to me are just like no-brainers.
Yeah.
They're gonna completely hit it out of the park.
Yeah.
Now what won't work? I mentioned before. I mean, a small EV car, the EV4.
Yeah.
It's still $35,000-$40,000. Not a lot of money.
Yeah.
When you think about a small-ish car.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of curious to see how that.
Like to Jetta.
You already said it, Corvettes.
It's a droll.
They have the Z06, the E-Ray is over there, and the ZR1. And I haven't driven a ZR1. I mean, it's awesome. It's over 1,000 horsepower. I would love one.
Yeah.
If I had the money, I'd buy an E-Ray, which is, you wouldn't really think.
$132,000.
But is that what you think is going to succeed?
I hope it does.
Question was like,
I hope it
does.
succeed.
Right.
Yeah. And I hope it does because I think it's actually better than what all the specs and the way they market it lead it up to. Because they're like, it's this hybrid Corvette and all stuff. It's really just an all-wheel drive Corvette. It does all the Corvette things just a little better because it doesn't spin. It just grips.
Yeah.
I'd put snow tires on it and just drive it all year round.
I'd put all seasons and drive it all. I found it interesting. We had a conversation of what would you be willing to give up to be able to drive the car that you loved out there every day. We talked about your wife who said, I'd like to drive a Miata. And we're like, you can't even put your groceries. Or Mike was saying, I could drive that E-Ray all day long. We're like, Mike, you couldn't even fit any tools or anything in that car. But what you would be willing to give up. And again, I say the same thing. I love those two-door Broncos.
They look cool.
Yeah, they
look so good. They look enough like an old Bronco that I just get palpitations. But probably not that practical without that rear door. And,
I mean, we have...
And not that big.
You usually pick a car because of your life. And maybe you're dealing with older parents or you have young children.
Yeah.
So you need a vehicle to accommodate that.
Yeah.
But as like you and I, our kids aren't kids anymore.
Right. Maybe
we don't need those things that we used to. Certainly my idea of what the perfect car is, changes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But, I admire Mr. Crosland's devotion to...
I mean, there's a lot of other great choices out there.
To 12 months a year driving this crazy...
I realize my choice isn't super practical with carbon fiber wheels and it's really low, but it's amazing and I hope the car succeeds. I think it's maybe the best of the bunch.
Yeah.
And Mike, any favorite?
Oh, the one that knocked me out. I got to read it because I got to get the name right. It's the Toyota 4Runner TRD Surf Concept.
Oh, nice.
I loved this truck so much. It reminded me of first-gen 4Runner because as they've got it displayed, the top is off, and I'm thinking, I want to go see my brother who lives in Santa Barbara, California, where it seems like it's always sunny.
There you go.
It's got this off-road. I mean, it's got lots of ground clearance. It's got those big fender flares.
It says turbo on the door.
And it says turbo. I saw this, and I've seen a lot of cars at a lot of car shows in my life. This is one of those ones where I just stopped took out my phone. I was like, I got to take a picture of this. And it was so cool.
What's that say? Put it on your vision board.
Oh,
Put it on your vision board.
What did you like the best?
I like that Bronco. That again, maybe not practical. That 2-door. It was royal blue. I loved it. Looks like an old Bronco. Loved it. So if you're in the area, come out to the New York Auto Show. There's really something for everyone here. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. This was filmed and produced by Andrew Belize and Anatoly Shumsky. We are missing David Abrams, super producer David Abrams. We miss you. He's out of work for just a little bit, but he will be back. So as we saw on the show floor, what was it? Get on out there, go faster, and live even larger.